Hi there, this is the Common Magician. It's been a while since I've posted anything. I have a lot of other ideas that I have going right now, a number of different things I'd like to investigate with you, and I do have some vacation time coming up. But I was thinking about this past couple days, and I thought about posting another long-form tutorial on this topic because it's such an interesting topic. It fascinates a lot of people, and I've given a lot more thought to it, and I think I have a lot more to say. I want to show you, rather than a lot of philosophical discussion like what we did on the first tutorial on this subject of any card, any number, I want to show you some specific ideas in their entirety that deal in some of the ideas that I glossed over in that first video. I demonstrated a number of impromptu kinds of ways to set up an any card at any number sort of experience in a modular way and put that together so that you could do this really in front of people without having the opportunity to have things set up or to have something elaborate. One of these is going to require a setup, and a variation of that will have a very minimal setup that probably can be put together in front of people. But for the most part, this is going to be very impromptu, and we're going to use one particular sleight that you all know is a favorite of mine, and I'll explain why that is in a moment. But we're going to use the Hofzinser spread call to make all of this really happen. We'll use maybe one other sleight in addition to that on occasion. Overhand shuffle sleight, which is something that most people already know how to do. It's a very amateur sleight. It's not easy to notice. It's not easy to see. It's one of the best sleights that you can know. We will apply that later on as well. But we're going to do the Hofzinser spread call really as the primary functioning resource to make this all work. And I will call this HACAAN. H-A-C-A-A-N. Hofzinser, any card at any number. So we'll look at 4 possibilities. Now, why use this sleight? Very briefly. This is the kind of sleight that fools the camera. It doesn't necessarily fool magicians when they know that it's going to happen or they know that it's an appropriate opportunity to have done it. It won't fool magicians. However, that being said, if it's done in an unsuspecting way at an unsuspecting time when it doesn't seem like it would be useful for anything, this can fool magicians. Yes, a Hofzinser spread call fools magicians all the time. So when it's being used as a force, say as a spread force, such to say that I want to force a particular card, and I say just touch any card, and when I do this, right, and I show a card, magicians always know that that's a force. They know that it's a Hofzinser force. If I do this, I say, select a card, just touch a card right there, that one. Okay, go ahead and take a look at that, and we're going to place it right back into the deck. Magicians know that that's what's going on there. But we're not going to be looking at it in that particular context. We're going to be doing it differently. Likewise, there's some telltale things that magicians notice too, such as whenever you do the Hofzinser spread call force, this little gem, taking the card off the top and then spreading on top. We're going to try to avoid those kinds of scenarios and apply the Hofzinser spread call in a way that's a little bit more unsuspecting and out of the norm. And you know that I like to do that with it. I like to use my spread call for just about anything to make anything work out. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to apply it to any card at any number. We're going to give you 4 variations on this idea. All of them have benefits. All of them have some drawbacks, so you can pick which one you like the most. And you can even use them in a modular way. Take pieces from here, pieces from there, and put them together to make something new. Let's get into it. HACAAN. This is any card at any number, comprehensive any card at any number, Volume 2. Let's get down to business. Okay, we're going to try a little bit of an experiment dealing in probability here. Just a little bit of a game. I have a deck of cards that is shuffled. There is no particular order to this deck, but just to verify that, I'll give them to you. You can shuffle the cards any way that you want. And once the spectator is pleased with the cards and having mixed them, and they're convinced that they are indeed shuffled, we can begin our experiment here. I just want you to look at the faces and verify that they are indeed normal. There's nothing remarkable about these cards. There's no duplicates of any kind. And it's just all 4 suits that you would find in a normal deck of 52 cards. As I get to the middle of the deck, I want you to look at these cards somewhere around the middle and just call one out, one that you identify with. Call out any card that you want. Let's say you call out the 6 of Hearts. You can see there's a 6 of Hearts right there, and there's only one 6 of Hearts. You can see that there's just the one inside the deck. There's no other 6 of Hearts anywhere in there, just the one. Okay, and we didn't see another one after that. We didn't see one before it. We know that it's somewhere around the middle is where you saw it, but we don't know exactly where. I don't know if you were counting. Were you counting which position it was in? No? Okay. We know that it's probably around 15 to 37, somewhere around that range. So in a large, section, middle chunk there. But we don't know exactly where. And we haven't shuffled the cards. We're not going to change the order in any way. But we know that 6 of Hearts is somewhere in there around that range. Now someone else over here, certainly who didn't have a perspective of that, you have no idea where the card could be. You know that it could be 15 to 37, somewhere around there. Just pick a number, somewhere in that range, any one that you feel right about, something you feel comfortable with. 27? 27? Okay, so we have 6 of Hearts. Now, you could have changed your mind about that card, right? Maybe you did, I don't know. But no one made you pick that card, right? You thought of it freely. Is that correct? 6 of Hearts, yes. Nobody made you pick 27, right? You know that you had a range somewhere in the middle there to pick, but nobody, told you to do that. You could have changed your mind, yes, but you picked 27. Okay, very interesting. Now, I haven't done anything with the cards, right? We haven't shuffled them since you picked your card or since you picked your number. They haven't been cut. Right? We haven't done anything. I want you to watch this very, very closely because this is completely fair. I'm going to count off 27 cards. Okay, so just watch and verify for me. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So far, so good. 11, 12, 13, yes, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, right? 27 cards. So this is 27 cards. Very, very fair. And I'm going to turn these over to you. I'm not going to touch those cards. Those are 27 from the deck. We have the 1st to the 27th card in the order that they were. Now, I just want to point out, though, on these remaining cards, if we take a look at them, we don't see the 6 of Hearts anywhere in there, correct? No? And again, you thought of that freely. No one made you think of it, right? And you picked 27 freely. Nobody made you pick that. Could you please take those cards and just verify for me that we have 27? Deal them face up right here on the table. Go nice and slow so we can see the cards clearly. So the spectator at this point would deal these out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. I want you to stop right there. So this is the 27th card. We don't see the 6 of Hearts anywhere in here. We haven't seen it here either. We already know what the outcome is, right? We already know what has happened. You thought of a card freely. Nobody made you think of it. And you picked the exact location of that card freely. Nobody made you do it. Pretty remarkable odds that you would have picked the 6 of Hearts and you would have picked its exact location at the 27th position. We're going to call this variation the verisimilitude variation, right? Because the way we're presenting it as kind of a probability game with a more narrow range than 52 cards. So we're dealing with the center section of cards. And that's part of the plot. That's part of what makes this plot work and allows us to handle the cards without appearing to handle the cards, right? Because, again, one of the biggest problems with the any card at any number plot is that in order to do it in a way that is convincing, you want to appear to not handle the cards, but you have to. You almost always have to do that. If you're using a fair deck, you have to do that, or if you're not using a confederate. So we have to handle the cards, but we want to appear that we're not handling the cards, even though we are. And the only way to do that is to hold the cards, do something relatively benign with the cards, but never shuffle the cards or cut the cards or cover the cards or move the cards in any kind of weird, awkward way. We want the scenario to be, as we say, burnable, that people can be looking directly at the cards from beginning to end, able to scrutinize what's going on and see nothing happening of any concern. If we can do that, we really do essentially meet the requirement of non-handling, of not handling the cards. So that's what we're after with this avenue. As I explained at the beginning, everything that we're going to be dealing with is mostly going to be dealing with a spread call to accomplish it. It's, again, I think a very versatile move. It's one of my favorite moves. It's a kind of move that a common magician like me can do that is burnable, that someone can be looking right at the cards, and you can do it slowly. You don't have to do it fast. You can just do it very deliberately and slowly, and it's still clean. It can fool the camera. This may not fool magicians. I will say, however, that a spread call properly placed in a routine can easily fool magicians. They don't necessarily, or they're not always thinking about that possibility if you're using it in an unconventional way. Let's look at what's going on here. What you're going to do is you're going to have them shuffle, or you could have it a shuffle deck in use. It's good to just clear that up. And you might even make a point of that as you're talking about this, part of your plot discussion about any card, any numbers, that most magicians don't verify that the cards are shuffled, but you shuffle the cards. That's a nice little thing to bring into the story. But anyway, you're going to take the cards and you're going to ask them to scrutinize them and notice that they are all different. And as you're spreading, once you get about to the 15th card, you'll bring up this idea that you want them to call out any card that they see somewhere in the center. So you're narrowing down the choice a little bit, not because you need to have a narrow choice of cards. I mean, they could pick the 2 of hearts if it was somewhere in there, but because it's essential to the plausibility of what we're going to do, which is going to allow you to handle the cards without handling them. Okay, just to go back to that opening discussion on this. So you'll say, just, name any card you see that you might connect with somewhere in the middle section, somewhere around here. They might say, anything like the Ace of Spades. If it's in there, 9 out of 10 people are probably going to say that. You could say, pick something a little bit more, You can stick with that, but you could change your mind if you want. You could also play that game. You could say, you could go with the 4 of hearts, or you could change your mind. Whatever. It's nice to give people options. But they're going to name something, Jack of Hearts or something like that. This is where you're going to do the first move. You're going to say, great, so the Jack of Hearts, and you can see that it's right here somewhere in the middle, and it's important that I want you to note that there's no other Jack of Hearts, and there I did the move. So you're just going to do a single Hofzinser spread call on the card that they named. And again, if you look at my tutorial on the ambitious card routine that uses the spread call, and only the spread call, I go through the spread call in ways to practice it. Essentially, all you're doing is you're switching this card for that one in your hands. So you're going to take this one, push it over the top, and then you're just going to switch places. That's pretty much what you're doing. However, the real move is that you're going to place it over the top, and you're going to pull back on the one underneath. So as you switch places, and you take this one with the thumb, the 9, I'm going to take on the back the Jack of Hearts with my fingers. And I'm going to switch places. I'm going to pull it back into this stack so that it clears that 9. You almost feel a little bit of a click as it does that. Again, I'm not going to talk in depth about the spread call here, but that's the basics of the move. You're switching one card for another. It's kind of like a top change with half of a packet covering it, right? there's nothing difficult about doing a top change. The most difficult thing about doing a top change is that it's just so bold, right? It's not that the physicality of it is difficult. So it goes with the Hostinser spread call, except that it isn't bold. It's not a bold move. It's got a ton of cover, so there's nothing bold about it. You can be very slow. So you take the card on top of the one that you want, the target card, you push it over it, you cover it, and you just switch places with it. You pull the target card underneath until it clears. Now at this point, I'm just going to push the other cards in over top of my called out card, okay? And what I'm saying now is you can see there's no other Jack of Hearts in there. You might see other jacks, but no other Jack of Hearts. I'm going to do this until I get to 3 cards from the top. When I get to the last 3 cards, I'm going to put these 3 cards on top of my called Jack of Hearts. So I'm going to put 3 cards on top of my called card. And this is going to be important for the next time that we have to do the call. So I'm going to slide these underneath. I'm going to very openly turn the deck over. I'm going to make a deal out of that. I'm going to say, look, I have not handled these cards in any way. They're in the state that they were when you gave them to me after they were shuffled. You shuffled everything into position here, and I had you think of any card that you wanted to, somewhere in the middle. So I don't know if you were counting what position that card was in. I don't know if you noticed, but it's probably somewhere between 15 to 37, which is a kind of a wide range. It's somewhere in there. We know that, but we don't know exactly, right? Now, not only do you not know exactly, but certainly they don't know exactly, right? You couldn't get a good perspective on that. So you freely thought of the Jack of Hearts. Yes, no one made you do that. You could have changed your mind. Sure, you go through that. You say, could you please give me, you over here, somebody else, could you just think of a number somewhere between that 15 and 37 mark? Maybe 1538 or 1438, make it a little bit bigger. Any number in that range. And really, it doesn't matter what they give you. This is going to come out perfect every time. So let's say they say something like, they might actually try to figure out where it's at and try to hit it right. That's another thing that adds a verisimilitude to this, a sense of realism to what's going on, is that if they're really trying to play the game, if they accept the premise that you're giving, there's a certain sense of achievement for the spectators that can come out of this kind of presentation. It seems totally impossible, but it seems plausible that you're actually doing what you say that they're doing. So they might think about this for a minute and try to really figure out, like guessing the number of candies in the jar, at the family reunion kind of thing, right? So they might say something like, 22. Now here comes the next part. You're going to say, fine. Now, no one made you think of that number. You thought of it yourself. In fact, you can change your mind if you want, but you can stick with that. So 22. And again, nobody made you think of what you thought of the Jack of Hearts. I'm going to count off 22 cards very fairly. I want to make sure you see this happening and verify what I'm doing. So we have 1, 2, 3. And then what you're going to do is you're going to do another spread call, because this is the Jack of Hearts right there, the 4th card. So 3 cards gives you enough cover to do this. And you have to be a little bit cleaner with this. If you feel like you need more on top, then put more on top. The only reason why I use 3 is because there's another variation of this that we're going to look at later that gives us an out in case they pick 1 through 3. Now, the way we're doing this right now, they can only pick somewhere between 15 and 37. So that's not an issue. So you could put more cards on top if you want to. I find that I'm good with 3. So you're going to count off 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to call the 4th card as you count it, 4. And it doesn't matter how dirty it is. You'll find that this really is not an issue, right? You can see that it's sticking out kind of down here. As long as I don't get this kind of a picture, right? That's what I'm trying to avoid. So 1, 2, 3, call 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. What I'm doing is I'm just stuffing these in underneath, giving pretty clear clearance here, right? And you go up to, I don't remember what I was at, 17, 18, maybe 19, 20, 21, 22. This may not be exact because I'm talking to you. But once you get to that point, all you're going to do is take them off, square them very openly and cleanly, make sure that you don't flash that card out. So as far as they know, this card here is the 22nd card. So you don't want to square this up in such a way that you push the called card forward. So you just have to be careful about that. So you're in this position here where you have 22, your called card underneath. You want to square up, maybe push it forward a little bit, and then square it up and set it down maybe in their hand. You could say, put your hand out, go ahead, take the cards. Now here's a very important subtlety just in the language. You say, these are 22 cards. I'm not going to handle these cards. It's very important that I don't touch these, so you know that I didn't mess around with them and I didn't change anything about them. You're going to deal these out in a second, okay? So there's a bit of a lie going on here. You actually did handle those cards, right? But we are setting a new premise about when the trick sort of begins. We're sort of saying the trick really begins right now. When we say, here, I'm giving these to you, I'm not going to handle those, okay? But these cards over here, I just want to show you, these cards, if you look through them, we don't see the Jack of Hearts anywhere in there. So we know that you're pretty close on your number, must be, if we're going after what I think we're going after here. Then you go back to a spectator, the spectator that has the cards. You say, I would like you to deal these out. Please count them out face up right here. And go nice and slow as you count through them so we can see the cards as you do it. We just want to verify that we have exactly 22, and this may not be 22. I can't remember if we counted that right. But we want to count it out, verify that we have the right number, and see what the faces are, see what the cards are. So we'll count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. It's actually 21, okay? So we would count that better, but this is 21, we'll say is what it is. And you say, now this is the last card right here. Please set that one down. You want to stop them at that point. Now the fun thing about, I think, this presentation is that you know what the outcome is, right? If you do it this way, you actually verify the tension is there, even though you already know what this is going to be. It's almost as if you could end the trick right now, and you could say, and that's it. All right, but we're not going to do that. We are going to pay off here. But you can say, look, we didn't see the Jack of Hearts in here. We didn't see the Jack of Hearts. We already know what has happened, don't we? You freely thought of a card, Jack of Hearts. No one made you think of that. You could have changed your mind, right? And you freely chose a number. You had any choice. But you freely chose, 21 in this case. It was 22 in the original there. And now we know that you two both chose the exact same thing. Jack of Hearts at exactly the 21st position. Then you show. So this is an extremely fair-looking presentation of any card at any number. That has a couple of benefits over the common presentation. It has the verification of a shuffled deck, because the deck does get shuffled at the very beginning. Very fair open handling. There's no shuffling going on. All the handling that is being done is being dealt with a spread call, which is a burnable move. It's something that people can be looking directly at. So it is kind of an unconventional application of it. So yeah, this could fool some magicians if they're not expecting what's coming. And if they're not really caught up to what the plot is going to be, this could fool some magicians. But it certainly fools a camera. You could do this on camera just as I'm doing here, or someone could tape it, or rather video it with a cell phone. Tape it. I don't know where I got that. I'm guessing from the 80s or something. But they could video it with a cell phone or with a camera, and they wouldn't really be able to analyze it in any such way to understand any better what's going on. It's a burnable handling of the plot. So that is the verisimilitude version, right, where the premise really makes it seem plausible that you could do this, even though the odds are pretty high that you wouldn't be able to pull this off perfectly every time. So anyway, that's the first variation. Let's look at another one. Okay, I'd like to play a game of probability with you people here in this deck of cards. You can see that the cards are completely out of order. There's no order to this. Just to be certain, go ahead and shuffle the deck if you want to. You don't have to, but if you would like to verify that for us, go ahead and shuffle them. And the spectator would be able to shuffle the cards to verify that they're out of order. Now, I would take the cards. I would say you can see that they are indeed completely out of order. I want to try something here. You can verify that there's no duplicates. As I go through them, I'd like you to just call out a number as I get further into the deck here. Just call out any one of these cards that you might relate to. It doesn't really matter which one. It's better if it's kind of, near the middle, but it could be really any card at all. And let's say they say the 8 of clubs, right? You'd say, great, 8 of clubs. Now, we haven't seen any other 8 of clubs in it. There's only one, right? And we can see that it's right there above the jack. All the way through here. No other 8 of clubs in there. Good to go, okay? Now, we know approximately where it's at. We know that it's somewhere around here. Right? We haven't really done anything with it. Now, look, it doesn't matter if I know where it's at. It just matters that you don't know where it's at. And right now, you know where it's at, your 8 of clubs. You know approximately. I want to do something about that, okay? We're going to switch things up just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shuffle the cards up. So it's a little bit more difficult. Now, right now, you wouldn't really know exactly where it's at. You might know that it's slightly inverted, but if I shuffle them again, right? Now it's very unclear, right? You don't know where it's at. It could be in one of any of 52 places, right? Now, you pick that freely, right? I just want to be clear. No one made you pick the 8 of clubs. Is that correct? Yes, good. Okay. We know it could be anywhere right now, and we know that we have one of 52 options. Go ahead and pick a number, 1 to 52. Somebody else over here. 14? 14 sounds good. Okay, so I want to try something right now. You could change your mind, by the way. I just want to make sure, because when you think back on this, you're going to wonder, what if I change my mind? Because I was kind of thinking about 16, right? Do you want to change your mind? No? 14. Okay, so 14, you 8 of clubs, you picked it freely. 14, you picked it freely. I want to try something. I want you to watch this very, very closely. Okay, I'm going to count off 14 cards from the top of the deck. Nice and slow, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. This is the 14th card. Yes, fair. 14 cards. Now, I just want to make sure this was fair, right? And I want you to take these. Just hold your hand out, please, and I'll set these in your hand, and I would do that for the spectator. We have the rest of these cards. Those are 14 cards. You picked 14. Just to make sure you picked it. You could have picked something else, right? Okay. 14 cards. These are the rest of the cards. And I just want to demonstrate something here for you very quickly. If we look through these, you'll notice something is not there, right? I don't see the 8 of clubs anywhere. Do you? No? I see an 8 of spades, but I don't see an 8 of clubs anywhere. I think we're in the clear, okay? So far, so good. You can kind of see where we're going with this right now, okay? Can you please verify for me these 14 cards and their identity? And what I want you to do, I want you to just deal them face up right here. Now, I haven't touched them, right? You've been holding on to those cards, and we know that they are the top 14. We all verified it. You all saw it, right? We counted them together. 14 cards from a shuffled deck, right? You pick the number. Go ahead and deal those face up right here, nice and slow so we can see them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and I want you to hold right there. This is the 14th card, and you can see we have not seen something, right? We have not seen the 8 of clubs, have we? Now, what are the chances, right? What are the chances? You might say that it's 1 in 52 chances that your card would be at a particular position. It's a whole other thing to say that you two both independently picked the same thing, right? That the 8 of clubs and 14 mean the same thing. That would be like 1 chance in nearly 3,000. It's like 2,700 something. That's incredible. But we've done it, haven't we? I mean, we don't have to look at it, but we'll look at it. We'll verify. The 8 of clubs at the 14th position. Any card at any number. 2 items completely selected freely. Okay, so I call this the 1 in 52 variation because it opens up the choices to 52. 1 through 52. They really could pick anything. They can really think of any card that they want and name it. It's better if they think of a card that is not the very first few cards. Okay, so that our moves can be done. So you can guide them a little bit by asking them, by saying, look, you can see that all the cards are different. As I go through the deck, could you just, as I get deeper into it, could you name out any card that you see here inside the deck? Just some of these leading words. As I get deeper into it, name one inside. Right, and someone might say the Ten of Hearts or something like that, but hopefully you're going for someone to pick something that's inside of the first few so you can do your spread call. If they are insistent that they pick the one that they see, right, what you can do is just say, that's great, we have that one there, and I just want to verify that there's no other Ten of Hearts in there, correct? You can see that this is the only one. It's somewhere in the middle, right? Well, we can lose it in there. This can quickly turn into just any kind of lost card trick, right? Where someone, instead of picking a card, they thought of one. But at this point, once you've done that, you can do your call and you can put it in there and say, there's no other one, right? And close it up. And what you've done is you've called it now to the top. Now, a couple ways to approach this. You can call it to the top for this variation, or you could call it to third from the top. Now, this one will have to end up, fourth from the top. This one will have to end up fourth from the top for the options to truly be 1 through 52. You can modify this in some way if you're more comfortable having more cards on top of it. And just deal with the number possibilities by either narrowing the range, or if they pick something, below 7, if that's about as many cards as you want it to be under, or 6, that you just say, no, it needs to be a little higher than that to make it interesting, right? You can avoid those. But for the possible outs to give you 1 through 52, it needs to be the fourth from the bottom. So I could cull it into that position like I did on the first variation, but you don't need to. You can cull it straight to the top and just make it a straight up easy spread call. So let's say they say, the 8 of clubs. You would say you can see there is an 8 of clubs there. It's the only one. You would cull it out. You would continue to spread and say there's no other 8 of clubs. There's only one. And we know that it's right about here. Now, you sort of know where it's at. And, of course, I know where it's at. It really doesn't matter if I know where it's at, but it matters that you don't know where it's at. So we're going to shuffle the cards a little bit. Now, what we're going to do, if you called it to the top, we need to get it fourth from the top. Now, the way we do this is pretty simple. We're going to thumb off 1, 2, 3, 4, and now it is fourth from the top. Now we're going to add a move to this. So on top of the spread call, we're going to need to do a top stock retention overhand shuffle. So very basic false shuffle, overhand false shuffle. Once we get that set at fourth from the top in the first 4 cards, we're going to in-jog a card and then shuffle off fairly. Okay, very basic card technique. I actually find that second to, and this might even be more important than the Hofstadter spread call, but for me, second to the spread call is the false overhand shuffle, the variations on that. I find this to be kind of one of those necessary skills that you need to have. You can do a wide variety of tricks just with a false overhand shuffle where you're retaining cards in places. So that's another important skill to learn. If you just have this, you can do a lot of things. So what we've done is we've made an in-jog above our top 4 cards, and what I'll do is I'll pick up now after the first round at that in-jog and make a break, and then I'm going to shuffle fairly. And as I'm doing this, I'm saying, now you really don't know where it's at. And then I'm going to throw on my top 4 cards. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, and the target card, right? Now I can go through my spiel and I let someone else pick any number 1 through 52. If they pick anything above 3, if they pick 4, that's like golden, by the way. If they say 4, don't try to get them to change their mind. Just go with that. Take it, okay? And say 4, wonderful. I just want to note that I'm not touching the cards. You named your number, and I'm not going to touch the cards here. In fact, I'll just have you deal right now. And they can deal from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hit it. So if you happen to get 4, make your trick better by not being involved in it. Okay, so that's one little tip there. I'll give you the outs in a second here once we deal with this. This is essentially just like the other variation from this point on. You're just going to replace the 4th card, which is the target card, into the location that you want to be. Let's deal with what if they say 1, 2, or 3. This is old school cheapness, okay? If they say 1 and you can't get them to change their mind, you give them the option to say, well, 1's kind of easy. I mean, you can have 1 if you want, but you can change your mind. Would you like to change your mind? No, I want to stick with 1. Fine, okay. What we're going to do is we're going to try something really unusual. This is very surprising to anybody here because it makes it all the more unpredictable. We're actually going to spell it out. Okay, so if you would have picked 15, that would spell differently than if you picked, 25, right? This is a totally off the wall kind of way to count here, but you picked 1, so we're going to count this out. O-N-E, right? Spells 1, and what you're going to find here is very interesting. Now you could have picked another number, but you picked 1, right? You could have picked any card at all. But you thought of the 8 of clubs. And you see that after we've spelled out your choice, we have the 8 of clubs. And you can reveal that way. Now, what you'll notice here is that 2 does the same thing. T-W-O. Okay, you can see the same thing. And 3... what you're going to do is you're going to modify the target to not be the 3rd card, but what is under the 3rd position, right? You say, we'll count off 3 cards. 1, 2, 3. Now, you could have picked... this one, actually, out of the options, this one is the most... this one seems the most benign, right? The most unassuming. So you count off 3 cards, and then you just sort of change the reveal a little bit. You say, so that's 3 cards. You could have picked any other number, but you selected 3. These are the 3 cards that you indicated. And you can see right under that position, right at that moment, we have the card that you thought of. So that's how you deal. Those are the outs for 1, 2, or 3. Again, try to get them to change their mind, or just insist that they pick something higher to make it more interesting. But anyway, you could do that if you had to, 1, 2, or 3. Again, if you get 4, just go with that. Get rid of the cards. Don't touch them at that point if they say 4. Don't touch those cards again after they say 4. Just let it ride the way it is. Let someone else deal it, because you actually have achieved a miracle at that point. But anyway, that is the second variation, the 1 in 52 variation. So you have to decide, which one of these looks better. There's pros and cons to each. I think the pro to this is that the variety is much wider in choice of what they're thinking of in terms of a card, and also what they're able to choose in terms of a number. It looks the same, at least in terms of the reveal, as the other one. But the one downfall, I think, to this is that there is real handling. You have to shuffle the cards. You're handling the cards. In the first variation, the verisimilitude variation, the one that has a little bit of plausibility and realism to it, there's no handling at all. You're not handling the cards anyway. You're just holding them. You're either turning them over and showing them, or you're turning them over and counting with people burning your hands or looking right at them. They could be staring. They could have their face right over the cards, and you can get away with it. So that's I think, the one downfall to the second variation that the first variation has. So let's look at another one. Okay, we're going to try something completely outrageous. I have a deck of playing cards here, and it's just going to sit there. I'm not going to take them out. Not yet, anyway. We'll take them out in a moment. But I want to get a few selections made, very free selections, and I just want to verify that they are free. Could I have you? I need you to settle on a card here. Now, in a deck of cards, you'll note that there are numbers, right? We have ace means 1, right? 1 through 10, and then there are these other cards, these court cards or picture cards. We have number cards, picture cards. I just want you to imagine that you have a deck, right, that you're looking at, and decide what you want to take out. Do you want to take out the number cards or the picture cards? You want to take out the number cards? Okay, so we'll take those out. We'll get rid of them. So you're left with the picture cards, and you have Jack, Queen, King, right? So you can pick any one of those. So what do you want to pick? Jack, Queen, or King? Jack, that's fine. Okay, so you have the Jack, and you have 4 suits. So you have spades, hearts, clubs, diamonds, right, that you can pick from. So can you pick one of those suits? Diamonds? So Jack of diamonds. Right now, you've settled on the Jack of diamonds. So nobody made you do this. In fact, if you want to change your mind on the suit, we can do that. You want to change your mind, right? Or do you want to go with kings instead? No, you're good? Okay, Jack of diamonds. That's good. Okay, so let's say Let's say that we have the Jack of Diamonds. You picked it freely. Okay, you're happy with that. We didn't work this out ahead of time. Is that right? Okay, now, you over here, we didn't work anything out ahead of time. Is that correct? Okay. There's 52 cards in the deck. Now, I could say you could pick anything from 1 to 52, but I'll be honest with you, this trick gets really boring if you get too high, and it's not terribly impressive if you go too low. So let's just kind of be fair here. You can pick 1 to 52, but can we go somewhere like 15 to 37, somewhere around there, just so that we can kind of, so it's in the middle, right? This looks a lot, this works out a lot better usually visually if it's somewhere in the middle. So let's say 15 or 15 to 37, 38, 39, somewhere around there. Can you pick one? 24, that's great. Okay, now you could have picked any number, right? In fact, you want to change your mind and go with a different number? 28? Okay, 28, fine. 28. And I let you change your mind, right? Now you're going to wonder, what if you just stuck with the other one later on? So I'll give you a chance to change back. Do you want to change back? No, 28. Okay. So you have Jack of Diamonds and 28. We are all happy with this, right? Everything was picked very freely. Okay. So you thought of a card. You thought of a number. Jack of Diamonds, 28. 28. Okay. Let's take a look here. I have a deck of cards. It's been sitting out here while all those selections are made. I'm not going to do anything with them. I'm not going to handle them in any way, right? We're just going to count off the number that you had. And I want to do this very, very fairly. So we're just going to count very fairly. 1, 2, and watch closely as we do this, right? Just to verify. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. What'd you say? Did you say 28? 28. 28 cards. Fair? Yes? Very fair. Now listen, I'm not going to deal with these cards. Okay, I don't want to deal these out and count those out and be, charged with finagling something here, okay? These are sitting here. Could I have you just verify the count for us very quickly? Just verify for that. Count them out one at a time. Just go ahead and pick them up and just count them right here. So go ahead and deal them down. Now, you can do it, just do it face down is good enough, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Stop right there. So this is the 28th card. You verified it, right? You're checking my math. So you have 28. Go ahead and turn that over. Okay, so we're going to call this the Inception variation, okay? Sort of named after that famous movie, all right, where an idea is planted in someone's mind. Because there's a bit of equivoque that's going on in this, but the initial version that I showed you is really just an example of what can be done. It's not really what I would do, though. I'm going to show you what I would do for people. I probably would not do that particular variation. I would add a little bit more, a couple more levels of equivoque in there. The version that I showed you has only one level of equivoque, which is very easily dismissed and really impossible to trace back, given the amount of free choice that really is given. That is true free choice. So let's get into what's going on here. This has to be prearranged. This is a preset deck. You cannot show the faces. They can't deal them face up. There is a little bit of a buffer in there to save you if they start dealing face up. And I tried to actually show that fairly, that they could deal 1 or 2 cards, 3 cards, 4 cards even, face up. And you can just correct that, turn them over and have them deal. Just say, just count them out. You can't do that because the stack is so obvious in there. Now, you could get really clever and come up with a different stack that would maybe achieve this a little bit differently, but that's probably not worth the trouble to be honest with you. Anyway, this is what it is. It also does require that you get them to pick a number of 15 or above. So you have to require them to pick a number and have a pretext for that. And the pretext that I use is that this trick really isn't that interesting if you pick a low number. It's also really boring if you pick a high number. So let's just pick something kind of in the middle and make this look as good as it can. And that's not untrue. Actually, that's a true statement. And a lot of people who perform any card at any number will say something like that. So you want to use that. Now, the payoff, however, the trade-off, the beneficial trade-off, is that you get to have the selections made with the cards sitting in the open. You never shuffle them. You never cut the cards. They can be burning your hands with these cards with this presentation because we're going to depend on that spread call. But that's the benefit of doing it this way. You can apply this again, like I said, to any other kind of stack situation and equivoque application where you can narrow down the choices to a stack that's available to you from which you can call. So let's just take a look at what the stack is. Before we do that, actually, let's deal with the equivoque. I have it set up so that they can pick any court card. That's my stack. So they can pick Jack, Queen, or King, any suit, any one of those will do. That's how it's set up. Now we have a version I'm going to show you in a moment here, a variation where you can take your equivoque down to 4 cards so that it could be one of any queen, right? And we'll add a couple layers of equivoque to that to get them to that. It makes it a little bit easier. And by the way, with that variation, they could deal face up. So that's another benefit, is that if you add just another layer of equivoque, you can make this look a whole lot better. So we'll deal with that in a moment. Let's deal with this one, though, first. So very free-feeling selection. You say we have picture cards, we have number cards. Which ones do you want to take out? That's the equivoque statement. You're equivocating taking out with, are we going to use it or are we going to get rid of it? They don't know, okay? It means the same thing. It means whatever you want it to mean. So if they say picture cards, you say, great, we'll take out the picture cards, and in the picture cards we have these. You're going to use those, right? If they say number cards, say, great, we'll take them out. That leaves us with the picture cards. So either way, you're getting down to picture cards, you're getting down to court cards. That's the equivocation there. So from that, it can be, you have jacks, queens, kings, pick one. And if they say kings, it might be a good idea to say, you can change your mind. Do you want to stick with that or change your mind? And maybe they'll change your mind and say jack. Say, great. You want to stick with that or you want to go back? Jack's great. Now, you have 4 suits. You have spades, hearts, clubs, and diamonds. Which suit do you want? Clubs, you can change your mind. You can have them change their mind if you want. And it doesn't really matter as long as it's a court card. Now, for the number, again, it has to be 15 or above. Because in our stack, what we have here is actually 3 indifferent cards plus all of the court cards, which happens to be 15. So if you look, we have the jacks in suit order: spade, heart, club, diamond, queen, spade, heart, club, diamond, king, spade, heart, club, diamond, plus 3. That's 15. So we have 3 on top of that that we can call under, and then we have that stack. So if we play this out, that they say, let's say the queen of hearts. Okay, we'll go with that, queen of hearts. And let's say the number we get is, again, it has to be above 15, so you give that spiel. Let's say it is, it's 16. We'll say 16. So let's deal with the mechanics here, what happens. You take the cards out and you say, let's count this out, and I want you to watch closely because we're going to do this as fairly as possible. Queen of hearts is what we're going for. When you count, you're going to count 1, 2, 3, which is in your different cards. Then you're going to deal with groups of 4, and you're trying to get to the second group of 4 and the second card, which is the heart. So the spade is the first card in the group, the heart is the second, the club is the third, and the diamond is the fourth. So we're going for the second group of 4 and the second card. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm calling, which is the queen of hearts. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So that's 16 cards, which should be an indifferent card because it's one more than what my stack is. So I've got 16 cards, but I've called my queen of hearts, because I know where it's at, to that exact position. I can then square and I can turn them over and present just like I presented the other variations, except they need to deal these face down. So instead of saying deal these out, and instead of showing these other cards and verifying what isn't there, I'm just going to leave these alone, and I'm going to say, can you please verify my count? Just count them out right here, one at a time, very carefully. They may do this. They probably won't. Usually when you say count the cards, deal them down and count them, they will deal like this and count. If they happen to do this, 1, 2, you can say, stop right there. Just to do it quickly, just deal them face down. That's fine. Okay, turn them over. So this would be 3. You get them corrected. Now, because the first 3 cards are indifferent, you have a buffer there in case they start doing it wrong. They probably won't, though. They probably will count them the right way if you say count them face down. Okay, so can you please count those cards very slowly? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Stop right there. This is a good place to recap and tell a couple of lies. First of all, give the lie in there that you had a free choice. They didn't because there was equivocation. You had a free choice of your number. They didn't because you made them pick in a range, okay? You can then say, I did not handle the cards in any way. I did not shuffle them, which is true. I did not cut them, which is true. I did not handle them. You verified the count right there, which is true. You did handle them, though, but you're meeting the prerequisite for an ACAAN halfway. You didn't do any of the things you said that would normally need to be done to make this work, but you did touch the cards, right? It's powerful that they're the ones dealing out in the end, and they're the ones left with the card in their hand when they're dealing. And that allows you to say, I did not handle the cards in any way. I didn't shuffle them. I didn't cut them. This was all very fair, yes? And people have to agree. And again, this fools the camera. This can be recorded, and it fools the camera. There's no way to know that you called out something at a particular position. It just doesn't show up. And there's no expectation that that's what's going to happen. So in the end, it ultimately comes out right. So let's talk about another variation very quickly that gives you a little bit better visual and a little bit more latitude with the deck. However, it requires a little bit more equivocate. This one, you're going to have a stack that has the queens, spade, heart, club, diamond, with 3 indifferent cards on top. It doesn't matter what they are. So this is your stack. Again, you start with this inside the deck, and the questions will go like this. You have picture cards, you have number cards. Which ones do you want to take out? The number cards or the picture cards? They say the picture cards, say, great, we'll take those out. Now, in the picture cards, so you need to get picture cards. You say, we've got Jack, Queen, King. You think about it, we've got ladies, we've got men. And this is an equivocation that's used in some other tricks that are out there on the market that you'll find. You say we've got ladies, we've got men, Jacks and Kings, men, Queens, ladies. Which ones do you want to give to me? The men or the ladies? Now, the equivocation here is you're saying, which ones do you want to give to me? What does that mean? Give to me to use or give to me to take? It doesn't make any sense. If they say the men, say, great, I'll take the Jacks. I would take the Jacks and the Kings, right, and set them aside. That leaves you with the Queens. Okay, so that's how we get down to Queen. The other side, they say the ladies, right? You say, great, you give me the ladies, I've got the Queens right here. Now, of the Queens, you have 4 suits. So either way, with that equivocation, with that equivocating statement, you narrow down to the Queen. So just one extra layer in there, which is not as perceivable as it might seem. Right now, it actually is a pretty safe way to do it. It doesn't look quite like equivocation. Now, at this point, you really can't equivocate anymore. You need to just have those 4 options. So now we're stuck with the Queens. You say, which suit do you want? You can change your mind if you want to. And they can change their mind in all of these. Really, it doesn't matter which way they go, because you can always make it work out. Let's say they say Queen of Clubs. Okay? So Queen of Clubs. Here's how you're going to handle it. When you do your count, and again, it needs to be, really also the count can be anything. You don't have to do the 15 spiel thing. If they say 1 through, I guess what would it be, 7? If they say anything below 10, say, why don't you pick something above 10 just so that this is more interesting. That's your way out. Okay, you just say something above 10, because it could be anything above 7 to make this work. If it's the right card, it could be 4. So if they say Queen of Spades and the number they say is 4, let that go, because that will come out right. And just, you don't have to do anything. That's a perfect end. They actually did really pick it, and you can just turn it over and let them do it. So just keep in mind of where things are at. You could probably even do that with 5 if it happened to be the Queen of Hearts and they say 5, because hitting 2 queens in a row is not really that big of a deal. Now, if they say Queen of Clubs and they happen to say, would that be 6, you probably shouldn't let that go, because they're going to hit 3 queens in a row. You're going to need to do something about that, okay? So anyway, above 10 is really best. So they say something above 10, let's say they say 15. Here's how you're going to deal with it. Queen of Clubs, 15. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to call the third one no matter what. So I'm going to call the Queen of Spades, and I'm going to get that out of the way. Then I'm going to take the Queen of Clubs next over top of my Queen of Spades. So I know that this is the Hearts. This would be 5. The next one is the Clubs. Here's 6. I'm going to call that on top of my Spades. 7, that's the Queen of Diamonds. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I don't know what I said. What did I say? I'm not sure. Let's say 14. 14. Okay, so here's my 14th card. Let's say that's the number they picked. What I have now is I've called both queens, the Queen of Spades and the Queen of Clubs under that, with the Queen of Clubs being the bottom, my target card. What I've done is I've separated the queens. Now I don't have more than 2 queens back to back, and that is not alarming. So I can have them deal this face up at this point. I could turn it over, go through the rest of it. Now I can say, please deal them face up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, big deal. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, right? And this is totally flyable. This will definitely work. Let's say they pick the Queen of Spades. We can deal with that as well. So we have these things in order. Hearts, Clubs, Diamonds, and Spades with 3 indifferent cards on top. Let's say they pick the Queen of Spades at the 14th position. What I would do is I would call off 1, 2, 3. I would call out my spade, right? And then I would just go on as normal. And then I would get to my 14th position, right? And what I would do is I would treat this one a little bit differently. Because I've got 3 in a row, I'm going to change the game on them. So just let me show you again. So I have 3 indifferent cards in Queen of Spades. 1, 2, 3, call for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. What I would do is I would say, go ahead and count those out, right? Let's count them down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I get to 5, I know I'm past my queens, right? 6, 7. Once you count them face up, 8, 9, 10, right? 11, 12, 13, 14. So what I can do is I could just have them change and say, why don't you count those face up so we can see what they are? Go ahead and turn the next one over. Right? Turn the next one over. Go ahead and count them face up. So what you can do is just get yourself in the clear from those. And that's really only the case if it's the spade. If it's any of the others, it doesn't matter because you can call out 2 and get them separated. So equivocation down to the queens by adding 1 extra question about ladies and men. And which one do you want to give me, the ladies or the men? That's how you deal with that. And then separating the queens in the call. You can have them do this face up. And that's a benefit there, is that it is a little cleaner in the end. The only downfall to that one is that 1 extra question in there, in that equivocation. So if you're comfortable with that, a magician will not be fooled by this at all. They'll know that you're doing equivocation. They won't necessarily know what that means for this, but they'll know that you're doing that. On the first one, if there's only 1 question, that's a big puzzler, because even though it's an equivocation question about picture cards and number cards, that's a lot of cards to deal with, and the rest of it is totally free. So, could fool a magician. They wouldn't necessarily be able to see exactly how everything's going on there. So anyway, that is the Inception variation of this Hofzinser ACAAN type concept. Let's look at another one. Okay, I want to try something with you dealing with probability. I have a deck of cards here that is in no particular order. The cards are all shuffled, but just to be certain, why don't you go ahead and shuffle the cards. And the spectators would be able to shuffle the cards as they see fit until they're happy with their position and their order. And at this time, what I would do is I would demonstrate to them that they are, in fact, in no particular order. It's an order that they selected. And I would say to a spectator, as I'm going through these cards, I just want you to call out a card that you see that you might relate to. It doesn't really matter which one you see somewhere as I'm going through these somewhere in the middle of the deck. And they might say something like, I don't know, the Four of Spades. You say, great, Four of Spades, you can see that we have a Four of Spades here, and it's the only one. So you didn't see another Four of Spades in there, and as we go through the rest of the deck, you can see that that was the only Four of Spades in the entire deck. And you know that it's somewhere right about in the middle, somewhere around there. Now, it doesn't matter if I know where it's at, but it's very important that none of you know where it's at. And you know sort of where it's at. You know that it's about in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shuffle the cards here very quickly. And if we just give them a quick shuffle, right, it's a little less clear. Now, maybe it's still kind of in the middle, right? But certainly, if I shuffle them again, right, it's a little less clear, right? Even if I know where it's at, that doesn't matter. It just matters that you don't know where it's at. We have a shuffled deck of cards. You shuffled it. I shuffled it. You had a freely thought of card. You could have thought of any card that you wanted, right? And you could have changed your mind. Yes, you could have picked any one you wanted. Am I right about that? And we didn't set this up ahead of time. Okay, it's very important you understand these free selections and also understand that the cards are completely out of order, and we don't know where your card is at. And I'm not going to control the cards. I'm going to leave them right there. In fact, it doesn't matter if I know where it's at. It just matters that you don't. So could I have you over there help me out very quickly? I want you to cut somewhere around the center of the deck, as close to the middle as you can. Go ahead and cut the deck, cut off the top, and the spectator would cut the deck just like that. And then I would say, great, I'm going to replace the cut, complete the cut and replace it, but I'm going to hold the break that you created, right? You made this. And again, I'm not controlling the cards. That's something you did, right? You could have cut anywhere, is that right? I didn't make you cut where you did. You could have changed that by a number of cards, one way or the other. But this was a selection that you made. You cut into a very specific number of cards, right? You chose a very specific card, freely thought of it, and you picked a very free number, right, of cards. Very free. You don't know what the number is, but you did it on your own. I did not make you do that. Nobody made you do it. I could have somebody else actually at this point, now that we know where we're all at here. Could I have you just deal off the top of the deck that we have, with the break that you made, that location, the number of cards that you cut into, could I have you deal the cards from the top face up right here, just one at a time, and let's count them down to see how many cards you cut into. They would deal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, slow down there a little bit, 20, 21, 22, 23, and it looks like there's one left, right? That would be 24. So you cut 24. You cut into the deck 24 cards. Freely. Could have been different, but that's what you did. No one made you do it. You didn't even know what you were going to do. You just did it, right? And you thought of your card freely. Wouldn't it be incredible if the card that you freely thought of and the number that you freely selected verified each other? The odds would be incredible. Some would say that it would be 1 in 52 that any particular card would be at a particular space in the deck. But I say it's actually different, because if we are to assume that your two choices are actually essentially making the same choice twice in a row out of 52 options, those odds are much higher, right? Those odds are actually 1 in about 2,704, somewhere around there. Go ahead and turn over the last card. 24 is the 4 of spades. Okay, so we'll call this variation, this fourth variation, the remote control variation. Now, you probably picked up exactly on what's going on here, because this variation cannot fool the camera. If this is being recorded or shown on video, right, and someone watches it in playback, this is pretty easy to dissect if you're paying attention to what's going on. At least in part. You know something in particular is going on here that's really shady. This is not easy to detect in the moment with real people in a live situation. Of the variations that I've shown you, this is the one that I have done over and over and over and over again for people. Nobody ever calls it out. They never see this. This completely dazzles people. And the benefit to doing this is that it really preserves the essential requirements of any card at any number, the Bergloss effect version of that. Now, I alluded to this on the first video series that I did on any card at any number, but this is a little bit of a deeper look at it, just so you can see what it looks like to actually do this ruse here. What we're depending on is, as I described, was the Hofzinser spread call, but we're using it only for the initial control. After that, what we're able to do is completely relinquish control, and we're able to make good on that one prerequisite that the magician does not control the cards. The magician just doesn't control the cards when things are happening. When the number is selected, the magician has no control over it. The magician may touch the cards, but it's a pretty benign kind of moment that can be easily dismissed. It is better, I think, if the magician does that replacing of the cut. Now, you could have the spectator do it and have them do this. This is a crisscross force, obviously. We'll talk about it in a second. And we've talked about this before on the channel, but you could have the spectator do it, as described in a lot of magic books and a lot of other, previous discussions on this, and say, please replace the cut or complete the cut, but place the deck perpendicular. This is usually how it's done, right? I have found, though, that this is much more off-putting and confusing if the cut is replaced like that. Just say, I'm going to complete the cut and replace it holding the break that you created. That is a little bit more confusing to follow. It's a little bit harder to understand which was top and which is bottom with that picture than it is by looking at that one. And it also doesn't require you having to give the spectator additional instructions if you just do it. So you say, I'm going to replace the cut. I'm going to complete and replace. I think it's best to say, I'm going to complete and replace the cut holding the break that you created. That part at the end is the lie, holding the break that you created. They didn't make that break. They made this break, right? This break already existed because this was the bottom initially. Right? So Ace of Diamonds is on the bottom. This is the crisscross force. If they cut the cards and I complete the cut and hold the break, I'm actually just holding on to the space where the top and the bottom card were at. Now, normally when you do this crisscross force, you will be forcing the top card. That's often how this is done. So the top card is the force card. They would cut it. You would complete the cut holding the break. And then what you're doing is when you come back, you can force that one. But you can also force the bottom. I find that it's more awkward when doing a crisscross force, forcing the bottom and presenting like this. I think that almost kind of gives away, just because that's an awkward... It's kind of like doing this, the Hindu shuffle force, right? You tell me when to stop right here, and then you show that, right? That's like a bait and switch. So I find that the crisscross force being displayed like this looks like that. But we're not going to do that. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to do the cut. We're going to force this card. Instead of showing the bottom in the classic sense, we're going to have them deal them out as if we're counting the number of cards that they cut into. Again, they didn't cut into this. They actually cut into this quantity. Now, that also brings up another point. When we force the cards in the crisscross force, I think it's important to direct them to cut about half, because you want the packets to look approximately the same so that they can lose track of which side is which. Okay, so you have to give that guiding detail. Go ahead and cut the cards about halfway. We want to cut kind of right into the middle of the deck, right? And you can dismiss that then later on by saying, now you cut, into the deck about halfway, but you could have cut anywhere you wanted to, any number of cards there. Right, so you're kind of taking back the limitation that you gave them when you're recapping the fact that they had free choice. So you want them to cut halfway. You need to give that guiding little detail to make this look a little bit cleaner. But that's the force, essentially. Now let's deal with the control. So this truly is from a shuffled deck, and you can have a completely shuffled deck and have them shuffle it and take it back. We're going to do just like we did in the other variations where you have them name out a card. Again, it's better to deal with it if you can get them to name something past the bottom grouping. But because we're going to do a shuffle on this, it will be, you have a wider variety to pick from. You really only need to get past the first few. If they insist on the bottom card again, you can just place it in the middle and say, now just point out there's no other 10 of hearts in here. There's only one 10 of hearts, and it's right here. You can see it. It's somewhere. It's right in the middle right now. Right? You don't see that anywhere. So we know that it's somewhere around here. That's how you deal with that if they insist on the bottom card. But otherwise, they'll call out a card, something like the 2 of clubs, right? You'll say, you see that there's a 2 of clubs and then there's only one, and I've done the move. I'm going to call it all the way to the top. So I've called the card to the top of the deck. I'll square it up, and I'm going to turn it over honestly. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a shuffle. I'm going to say, now it doesn't matter if I know where it is, but it really matters that you don't know where it is, and you know that it's somewhere in the middle. So if I shuffle the cards, what I'm going to do is I'm going to thumb off the top card, and I'm just going to shuffle it to the bottom. So if I shuffle the cards, it becomes a little less clear about where it's at. In fact, if I shuffle again, it really becomes less clear. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do this kind of Klondike shuffle where I peel off, they call it milking the deck as well. I peel off the bottom card along with the top card. So under the cover of the top, I'm just going to keep that bottom one where it's at and continue to shuffle. So what I've done is I've actually retained my force card on the bottom. Okay, and now I'm all set. That's it. I can set the deck down. I'm going to say now, what really needs to happen here is I'm not going to do this. Okay, I'm not going to handle the deck. It's very important that I don't touch the deck from this point. Okay, as if now we're going to start the trick. And this is a philosophy that I talked about in the first volume of ACAAN, any card, any number, comprehensive talk that I gave, that when you start the trick is part of the trick, right? The psychology of that. So you say at this point, I'm not going to touch the cards, okay? Even if I know where it's at, you don't know where it's at. It doesn't matter if I know where it's at, but you're going to do this, okay? So now you have someone cut the deck. Again, you give them a little bit of guidance. Say, could you please cut about half the deck, okay? And they'll cut halfway into the deck, and they'll cut it off and say, great, I'm going to, just watch very closely here. I'm just going to complete the cut and replace the cards at the break that you created. Okay, let's just recap what happened here. You thought of a card freely, right? And you could have changed your mind, but maybe you did change your mind. Maybe you thought of one and thought of it. I don't know. But you thought of a particular card. I don't remember what it was. It was the 2 of clubs. You thought of the 2 of clubs, right? And you cut the cards at the exact precise place that you wanted to. You had a choice where you did it. We don't know exactly how many cards you cut into. We're going to find out in a moment here. But you actually selected a number, 1 to 52. Very freely, and we can figure out what that was. Could I have you deal for me right now? I just want you to leave the cards right as they are, right, so we can see that break there that you made. I think if you say that a couple times, you can probably say that too many times, but you probably are well to say that more than once, right, at the break that you made. I'm going to have you deal right now. Could you please deal face up from the top of the deck? Just leave it right where it's at. Pick up one card at a time and deal face up right here down to the break that you made. Okay, and they will then do that. And as they do that, eventually they'll work down to the card. You say, please slow down, right? And you'll say, looks like there's one left. And this is the 20 blah blah, whatever. It's usually going to be about 25, 26, 27, 28, somewhere around there if they're cutting halfway. This is the 27th card, and that's the number that you freely selected. So we have, whatever your card was and the number, whatever it is that you've cut to. And it would be amazing if these two things lined up. Then you can talk about the odds. The odds for ACAAN truly are 1 in 52. That is the truth. But I think it's beneficial to pose that lie about 1 in 2,704. One way to sort of mathematically justify it is to say that, let's say that the card you're thinking of and the number that you're thinking of are really like picking the same thing twice in a row when you have 52 choices. In doing that twice in a row, those odds are 1 in 2,704. And that is true, by the way. That is actually true. It doesn't change the fact that this is still 1 in 52, though. Okay, so it just kind of heightens the expectation there. But anyway, yeah, it comes out right. So when they do it. So crisscross force into the reveal. It's just a thing that I posed to you, an idea that I posed to you on the first talk that I gave on this, but I'm showing it to you now, showing you what it looks like. I've done this a lot. This is one of my favorite ways to do it that is completely impromptu and looks really fair. It seems to hold all of the prerequisites in that selections are free and also that the cards are not handled by the magician. They're handled by the spectators. That's a pretty good, legit way to kind of get those prerequisites into place and make it work in a very impromptu way. So we'll call that variation 4 of the Hofzinser type ACAAN. So Hofzinser call it to the top, and then crisscross force it back on them. So the remote control variation of the Hofzinser kind of motif. We'll close here with a few thoughts about all of this. So a few closing thoughts on this, and really I just have one big one. Some of you are going to look at this idea about using Hofzinser spread call to force back the count, particularly on those first 3 variations, and their variations on variations, where you are taking a card and calling it and forcing it into a count, and then giving it to someone else to then count, as being a bit redundant. That's fine. I think that if you pose it in the right way, as watch this closely. I just want to make sure that I'm doing this right. Okay, watch very closely that I'm counting these out, right? This is completely fair. Completely fair, right? In fact, I want to make sure it's fair. I'm going to have you verify it. If you would please deal those out, count them. I think if you pose it in that way, any criticism of that should disappear. It's all about the context that you're doing it. However, I will say this. If you have a problem with that, then do it yourself. That's nothing wrong with that. You can do it that way. You can just do the Hofzinser call force as it is done. One way that I posed this on the first volume of this discussion on ACAAN was you could have someone, instead of giving you a number, you just have them touch a card at a location, right? So you're forcing it back on them. So you take, the card is Queen of Clubs there, right? You're going through the spread, and you spread call force it back. They touch a card like this one right here, right? And then you just square it up, and you demonstrate that they've selected the card. So that is a Hofzinser spread call force. You could just do that if you want to, rather than have them give a number. So remember, if you remember from the first volume, the comprehensive discussion I gave on this, one of the philosophies I talked about was we often deal with this differentiation of any card versus a card, but we don't deal with the differentiation or the possibility of any number versus a number. right? A selected number, a selection versus a number, right? Any card at any number can be dealt with not merely just a card versus any card. It could be dealt with a selection versus a number, right? That is still the same thing, and you can substitute one for the other. So that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is that you can just do the count yourself, right? Instead of turning it over for them to count, just end it where you end it. You said 17? Fine. I'm just going to get rid of the concept of me not handling the cards, and I'll just do it myself. So the force card is going to be the Queen of Diamonds, and I'll say 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 cards. And you can see here that the 17th card, which you picked freely, happens to be what you picked freely, the Queen of Diamonds. You just do it yourself, right? Get rid of that concept of turning the cards over and having someone else deal them down. Just do it yourself. A lot of ACAAN performances work that way. I know one that's a reverse count type concept. Instead of counting fairly this way, right, which does beat the camera, there's a variation where you can count like this, where you're doing a reverse count to get down to it. That doesn't beat the camera, but is done in the hands, done by the magician. You just give up. Just give up on that idea that you're not going to handle the cards. Okay, so that's another way to deal with it. Throw out that idea. I still say that you can do the count yourself, turn the cards over, have them deal them out, and verify your count, and then substantiate the claim about not handling the cards by doing that. So really, those are my last thoughts on this. One final thought on this is that, again, this is modular. All of these ideas are modular. You can kind of mix and match them in different ways and come up with your own presentation or use a different type of force or different type of control. Again, I just posit this idea of the Hofzinser spread call control as being a pretty superior way of demonstrating a lack of control on a deck that is burnable by an audience, whereas most other controls are both not burnable and they don't really stand up to the scrutiny of no control by the a magician. Whereas a spread call really can be videotaped. I said tape again. Can be video recorded. Can be recorded on video and watched back, and it beats the video. Doesn't necessarily beat the magician, right, that understands the principle, but it does beat the video. There's nothing in there to notice about it that is indicating the method. So I gave you 4 really good options using the Hofzinser spread call as a call and a force to make a super duper clean kind of presentation of it where there's no handling of the cards going on and other people can deal. A little bit of equivocate added in there. So good luck with all of this and happy magicking.